Alright, hello. So now we talk about a topic that it's quite relevant for me every day, which is virtual reality and its implementation and why it's not flying as hard as I might want and many people might expect. So I've been looking at the phenomenon for many years, and every year I've thought that okay, next year it will become big. More and more big companies get into it, so it will become bigger and bigger and bigger. But in many years, it hasn't really become popular, especially with businesses and education, and it's not even popularized that much with the consumers. It's just not hundreds of millions of users, no way. So why is it so? I think there is like a few things that we need to look at. One of them is this, that it would require to be super easy to use, which is standalone headsets. Okay, they are the most easiest to use and they are cheap. And then there are more sophisticated solutions, more expensive headsets with amazing graphics, but I doubt that they will never ever become too popular because they require some IT skills and they are relatively difficult to set up thanks to the tracking systems. So especially when you look at businesses and education sector, I mean the people who they are not technology ready at all, for them it seems to be even big problem just to calibrate the floor, because virtual reality as technology is so alien to people that they don't expect that you need to do calibrations or whatever. So usually people who are working in HR in mid-level or some teachers who don't know much about technology, they just click it forward and they see the grid and forward and then they are inside of the floor and it's just a mess that it's surprisingly difficult for people, okay? So, but still the standalone headsets are the easiest and cheapest. But what comes the problem there is that people talk about virtual reality, the whole, virtual reality. What it means? It means that it's another, it gives people idea that they see world like we see here, that it's like Matrix level stuff or whatever. And that's not true. I mean, the standalone headsets have very shitty graphics. So people have expectations about it which are not met for sure. And then also the developers are a problem, the big companies are a problem. They want to replicate the reality. It's not going to be functional in a super long time with standalone headsets that actually could popularize VR. You shouldn't even aim to replicate reality or create real avatars. I mean, first of all, for me personally, it's like a stupid idea that you are creating this kind of virtual world that's another reality, that you could make another reality and it could be super interesting and something else. You could be flying in space, you could be learning from space by becoming a planet, that you are a planet, or you learn about whatever flowers, plants by you are being a molecule, and you could be whatever squirrel or a rat and whatever. That would be awesome. And then also that you are trying to replicate yourself there, which is completely stupid. I mean, if you have another world that you could explore virtually, why do you want to be like this? Especially like this you wouldn't probably want to be, but I don't even want to be myself in VR. Why can't we be just some kind of resemble our self, like our essence, our soul, that we could be this kind of a different version of us, which is still us, but something different than in reality. So people might then understand a bit more what the virtual reality is. They like we have been doing this with other simulations, that we are doing standalone simulations, for example, for cashier training, people who work at the cash machine and such. We learned that people are a bit disappointed when they start the most realistic looking fully 3D graphic simulation in standalone device, when the human characters and everything is not exactly like it is in reality. And then also it starts to lag a lot, it starts to be very difficult to use and hurt your eyes if you want to make a good graphic in standalone and then still maintain reality. So what we do is that we immediately try to make it surreal, that we concentrate what's important and we make it surreal experience, that the user immediately understands that this is not meant to be real, so they concentrate on the experience. But this is of course just a little glimpse of what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that the technology is here, standalone headsets are good enough to create another reality which might be better than the reality we live now, and you should do things in VR you really can't even imagine doing in real life. That it's a lot about the lack of imagination we have, but it's natural. You know, people are quite simple in the end. I mean that you get this kind of super powerful and amazing technology. What are you doing? You are just replicating what we already have because that's safe, that's easy, that's, you know, blah blah blah. The decision makers, you know, of course, if you are working somewhere, you are like, okay, should we make this kind of crazy adventurous thing where you are a squirrel or whatever? They are like, first probably that sounds cool, but then they play safe and let's just replicate what we have here, so a person can show it to the superiors and funders that, okay, look, we replicated it, isn't it nice? And everybody says it's nice, but it's in the end shitty because it's not how VR should be used. So I think that we already have what it takes to make VR popular if we could just make it way more interesting and divert the expectations into the direction of not replicating but improving the reality and creating a world that we can be part of. So that's something which I find like very important, and that's at least what we are doing where I'm working at Virtual Dawn. So I think that it's like a thing that we really try to hold on to, and I think that we are right, but we'll see how it goes. But that's my few thoughts about why VR hasn't yet taken off and how it might take off, and I think it just requires a bit bravery and imagination from the creators, and that's what we try to also actually empower you to do. We are giving you metaverse creation tools, so I hope that that helps people to express themselves and create the virtual reality content that actually is beyond real. So, thanks.